Looking to up your real estate investing game? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Sub2Deals Show with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle.
Hey, Sub2ers, my name is William Tingle of Sub2Deals.com, and I would like to welcome you to this episode of the Sub2Deals Show, where we talk about all things subject to. Now, occasionally we will cover other real estate investing topics, but it's always something to help you with your business. Today is another episode in the Real Investor series where we feature real investors sharing real stories and actual deals. Now, these guys are investors all across the country doing deals every day. They don't have boot camps or courses to sell you. They just have real tips and strategies to offer that work for them and will work for you too. So pay attention and take lots of notes. My guest today is Terri Cuffie. Terri is a real estate investor in North Carolina. She has been investing since 2005, since she bought her Carlton Sheets course. We were talking about that a little bit before. She got her start with Carlton too, and is still part-time. Now, listen to this, guys. It's super important. She still works a full-time job, and she buys 8 to 10 houses a year. So remember, we talked about this on another podcast, how 12 houses a year can get you there. But she still works full-time, and she still finds time to buy almost one house a month. So good for her. She's going to talk to us about what she's doing today. So Terri, welcome to the Sub2Deals Show.
Thank you.
Man, I'm really excited about having you here today. Terri's actually one of our coaching group students. And of course, by the time she came to us, I mean, she was already hitting it like crazy. So I don't know how much I teach her, but we're pleased as we can be to have her on here. Terri, like I said, before we got started here, we talked a little bit about the commonality here. You got your actual start with real estate with Carlton Sheets, just like I did. So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about your background and, where you're from and your family and that sort of stuff.
Well, I'm from Long Island. We had moved to North Carolina in 2006 when our youngest daughter got a scholarship to play basketball at a private high school. And then we followed her to Texas to watch her play college ball. In 2013, when she was done, we were done. Texas wasn't really for me.
Right.
So what we did was we came back. We didn't want to go back to New York. We decided that North Carolina would be a good place for us to set up some roots. I've been with my husband since 1988. In 2 days, we'll be celebrating our 29th wedding anniversary.
Congrats.
We have 4 adult children and 8 grandchildren, 3 dogs, 3 cats, 8 chickens, 2 goats, and 2 potbelly pigs.
Oh, wow. Well, that's great.
I know, I'm a farmer.
That's great. Hey, so you said your anniversary's in 2 days?
Yeah, I have to set a reminder because and then I have to do the calculator on what year is this one, because it's been so long. We've been together for a long time. Yeah, since the 80s. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, Jody and I are celebrating our first anniversary in 6 days. It's actually on Monday, but it's 22nd. So yeah,
congratulations.
Got that in common there. Okay, great. Yeah. Well, it hadn't been so long that I have to set a calendar yet. I'm well aware this is the first anniversary. So anyway, but I get what you're saying. I totally do.
Well, my husband doesn't even know how old he is. Like he literally he doesn't know his birthday. He doesn't know what year he's in. I remember because my kids remind me all the time how old I am.
That's funny. Because I guess the older you get, the slower things come to you. And, that's one of those trick questions they ask you if you have to call in about your credit card to get some information. They'll say, year of your birth, and you tell them, and they go, and that makes you how old? And you have to think real fast because if you don't tell them right away, if you have to stop and figure for a second, it looks like that's not really you.
Right.
So that, right. I mean, that could be, when you get a little bit older, that can be tough. For sure.
Oh, it's the big joke around here. It's really funny. Good thing he has a calculator on his phone. Anyway, we bought up a few houses on our block. That was I know we'll get to this in a little bit, but in 2016, we really started heavily, getting engaged and learning and stuff. And the couple of strategies that we learned here were, I bought one seller financing, I bought another one Sub2 for $1. So 3 of our 4 kids and 6 of our 8 grandkids live on the block. We quarantined, didn't have much of an impact on us.
Yeah.
I'm full-time employed, like you mentioned. I'm a software consultant by trade. I'm also a licensed Zumba instructor.
Oh, yeah.
And I started our local women in real estate subgroup of the REIA in 2019 to help women address obstacles we face in a male-dominated industry.
Well, great. That's fantastic. I'll tell you, and that may be true. Of course, I'm not familiar with women's struggles in real estate too much, but man, I've known a ton of highly successful girls in the real estate business. I mean, they're sharp. I think they've got an edge in negotiations. I think sellers trust them more than they do the guys. They have a lot of advantages in that, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know what's the struggles are, so to speak, but I mean, as far as getting into it, I mean, they're smarter than us anyway. Everybody knows that. It's too difficult to get going. But well, tell me, I know, like I said, I know that you got started with the Carlton Sheets course, but what got you interested in real estate?
So Carlton Sheets was great. I did, I bought a couple of properties. On my first deal, I got $250 back at closing.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even know it. Like, it just happened. But then my husband got injured. He drives a truck over the road, and he got injured in 2015. And it was almost a career-ending injury. He ripped all of the tendons off of his knee. So we didn't know would he be able to get back in the truck. It was it was the leg that climbs you in there and pushes the pedals. So he said, we should do real estate. And we went to one of those boot camps that come to town, those HGTV things. Right. And that back then in 2016, they were hot and heavy around here. Especially Winston-Salem was one of the hottest markets for growth. So we were learning. I'm a learner by trade. With him doing it, we did a couple of small deals. We got some deals done, but he realized he really didn't love it. So then we became and I started passively just acquiring properties, doing my marketing like part-time. So in 2019, I joined forces with my business partner, Catherine Snow. She is the yin to my yang. We make a great team. I am a cold-hearted New Yorker, and she's a kill 'em with kindness Southern charmer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So honestly, she's way tougher than me. She just drips everything in sugar, and our sellers love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see where that would work well for you down there. Jody, my wife, she's a Yankee girl. She's from Wisconsin. So we go back and forth all the time. She mocks me and I mock her, about Wisconsin and that's right. And all of that stuff. And we joke. We went on our honeymoon in New Orleans, and I had to apologize for her everywhere we went because I said, oh, she's from the North, so I get that whole Southern and Northern thing. When I was growing up, my grandparents, I lived with them a lot, and it was always talking about Yankees are bad. So I bet your partnership does work pretty well for you down there. Yeah. And
it's funny you bring up Yankees because my attorney is a real Southerner, and he talks about me, and them damn Yankees all the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's for real. The war is never ending in the South. I mean, that's the way it is. You can go down to the South anytime and you can't get out of there without seeing one of those bumper stickers, hell no, I ain't forgetting, with the rebel flag and all that stuff. So yeah, the war's still going strong in the South for sure. But tell us a little bit about your business model. Now, I know that you're a creative finance person and you like Sub2, but I mean, you're looking for specific things. I've already heard you mention your houses on the street that you bought Sub2, seller financing. So tell us a little bit about your business model. Is there a specific thing you look for, or you're just open to anything creative like that?
Well, we entered investing with the gateway concept of wholesaling, right? Like a lot of people, they see those big ticket checks and feel like that's the next step, right? I'm going to make it big and I'm going to be a millionaire. But wholesaling is a tough hustle. It is tough. Yep. So we got our kickstart, like I said, with one of those HGTV promotions that came to town, went through all that wholesaling boot camp. it started bringing back some memories of when, I did this before. So it became very clear, very quick, that we were going to be throwing a lot of marketing dollars out the window if we didn't learn to evaluate deals more than wholesaling.
Right.
Because we were getting a lot of phone calls, people with equity, or they were underwater. There were just situations where a cash deal wasn't going to work.
Right.
And I'm a learner. So I took some additional classes, like I went to note school. I did some more wholesaling courses. I attended REIA events, YouTube University. So now we do it all except flips and multifamily, which I am going to a multifamily later on in March to pick some of that up. I'd love to add that to the portfolio. So every deal is first evaluated as a wholesaling opportunity, but we always deliver at least 3 offers to every seller. Our target market is mostly rural for a couple of reasons. So like you said, I'm in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the home of Max Maxwell, the famous wholesaling YouTuber. Not that I don't enjoy the competition. However, the market is saturated, and the poor property owners in our market are slammed with cold calls and postcards. Ask me how I know, right? Like I'm getting, I can pull out a stack of postcards, and letters that I get all the time from people in the area. So the other reason is it expands our exit strategies, right? The areas we market to are 30 minutes to an hour outside of the metro areas. So if we're 30 miles to an hour outside of Greensboro or Winston-Salem, or we start to hit maybe some of the border towns along the Virginia border, those are considered like bedroom communities, right? On Long Island, we call those bedroom communities the furthest someone is willing to commute to make city money, but pay country prices for housing.
Right.
So that's how I got to where I am. Every deal is a deal if you can make it work.
Yeah. That's the thing. It seems like, I know even when I got started investing, wholesaling is where they point all newbies to. And that seems to me to be the toughest way. There's so much competition, and especially in markets like we've got right now where stuff sells super fast. My goodness. I mean, these guys, I know some wholesalers that spend $10,000 a month in marketing looking for deals, like that. And man, I've never done anything like that to find creative stuff.
Now, I just upped my marketing budget, but for the longest, we would spend maybe $300 max a month. Yeah. I just upped my budget to $600 a month. It's just because we're scaling. So
yeah, exactly. So wholesaling, I think, is a tough business, especially in a super, super hot market. But you're going to run into, and especially opening it up to things where it's low equity, no equity, you've got a lot more options. And Joe, the wholesaler, could mail out 10,000 postcards this month and trash 1,000 leads where they owe 90 cents on the dollar.
Right.
I can't help you.
Right. Right.
If things
change, call me back. Yeah. Things change, call me back.
Yeah. We can buy them all. And so that's really a strategy that, I've started telling my students the last couple of years, make friends with wholesalers. But I think wholesalers are starting to figure it out, because we get a lot more people coming into the in the Facebook group now that are wholesalers. I think they're wanting to know, how are you able to make a deal out of this? Because I can't. How can you do it? But man, I can take a $250,000 house where the seller owes $235,000. I can, with 3% interest rate loan, I can take over the payments on that and make an easy $50,000 over the next 36 to 48 months.
Right.
Just seller financing it. Just incredible. I mean, zero equity. They don't even have enough equity to pay a realtor. But we can get it done. I mean, that. I think there's no sense.
Yeah, we get them.
Yeah, that's right. So what would you say in our current market? And we're obviously, we talk about this with everybody we talk to. We're not in a normal market for sure. Right. Things are selling super fast in most of the metro areas. They're doing everything they can. I mean, foreclosure moratoriums, so there's half your motivated sellers. and prices going up. And now they're trying to pass a bill to give a $15,000 tax credit to first-time home buyers to further flood the market that's already short on houses. I mean, here in Colorado Springs, we've got like a 4-day inventory of houses. It's insane.
Yeah.
And I know we were just reading in the forum the other day about Las Vegas, same way, that someone in foreclosure with average appreciation on a $300,000 house is looking at a $36 or $38,000 appreciation over the next 12 months. But if their payment's $1,500 a month and they don't make a payment all year, they're $18,000 in the hole that way. But they still come out in a market like this. Terri, what are your best sources for leads? What are you doing to generate sellers that'll deal with you?
So the past 2 sub deals that I've got, the sub 2 deals that I got, were brought to me by wholesalers because they didn't know what to do with them.
Right.
But my go-to, I keep a whole thing of mailers over here. I go to the Dollar Tree and I buy the little blank cards. And if there's a property that I really want, I'm not a cold caller. And I really don't like talking to sellers. I just need to get them into call rail. And once they get into call rail, then I put CAT on them, right? But there's my go-to is a very simple letter. It's just very inviting, not intrusive, sell me your house now type stuff. I don't really like that because I know I've gotten postcards with urgent, sell me your house now.
Right.
And that's not very effective.
Yeah.
You know, I can guarantee they hit the garbage before they even make it through the door.
Right. So are you handwriting this?
I do handwrite on properties that I really want. I do handwrite them.
Right. Okay.
Where I was for the longest time. So I told you I'm a software consultant, right? So technically I'm pretty savvy.
Right.
And for the longest time, I was sending out my own letters. I would get the list. I pull the list from PropStream. I would, scrub the list and make sure that I had some really good leads in there. And I'd maybe send out 200 letters. I printed right off my printer and signed every one of them. I can't write 200 letters because I type for a living. So I can't, it'll look horrendous, but I would just sign every letter, put a stamp on it and write the address on the front. And I get so many returns on those because it's personal. It's personal.
Yeah.
And I'm in their market.
Yeah. And that's something that, you just don't see these days. It's anything personal. Everything's digital.
Everybody wants to do technology, Yeah.
It's email. It's like the whole texting thing. You mentioned that earlier. And I read some stats the other day that said even cold calling, that it's so saturated now with calling and texting that 96% of people won't answer the phone if it's a number they don't know. They just won't do it. If it's not in their contact list, they let it go to voicemail. And I believe it because we call a lot. And, a year ago, a little longer than a year ago, it was a certainty. I could get on Zillow, pick up my phone, make 100 calls and buy a house. It was just that easy. If I worked in 4 markets, which I did at the time, I worked in 4 markets, and each market, they were all Midwestern. Median priced home was between $175 and $250. I could call 100 sellers and buy a house, no sweat. It was predictable. It was easy. It was like shooting fish in a barrel because each market would have 100 FSBOs. And some of those are 90 days on market, 120 days on market. Now in those markets, you go to Zillow, 7 FSBOs, 5 FSBOs, 3. It's just, it really is. It's crazy. But the whole texting thing is so saturated. And to get a note or a card or a letter that somebody took the time to either write or even just sign is a big difference. And that's the stuff that makes you stand out for sure.
And the tagline is always, before I sign it, and if now is not the right time, put this away in a safe place because you never know. Circumstances can change in a heartbeat. And then I sign it. And it's such a friendly letter. I get calls a year after I've mailed things out because I keep in call rail. my different marketing campaigns, like what type of letter I sent or what the postcard, what that campaign was. So I could track where it came from. And I've got stuff coming in from like 2017, 2018.
Right. Do you use CallRail for any type of follow-up with them at all? I mean, as far as, we're just talking about texting or anything like that.
Well, if they text, I text back because I always tell them they can call or text.
Right.
Okay. But we really used it as an inbound just to track the numbers that are coming in. They get rerouted to Kat's phone. So she picks up right away. Yeah. We really, I hate to let them go to voicemail. I can't tell you how many times I've been at a stoplight and I've called the number, We Buy Houses, and I go straight to voicemail. Oh, it takes them 2 days to call me back.
I preach about that all the time. In fact, our YouTube channel, I think I've got some videos on there where I'm fussing about it because we travel a lot, and every town I go to, if I see a sign, I call it.
Me too.
Without fail, though, Terri, I know you know this. 90% of them don't pick up the phone, and a bunch of those won't call you back.
Right.
It's crazy. You go to you take the time and the effort, you buy the signs, you put out the signs, you do all that stuff. You need to be handling your sellers. And that's why I don't like to farm out cold calling. I say that's the most money you make is that negotiation and selling that deal. Yeah. You don't trust that to somebody around the world, just don't. Yep. That is crazy. I would rather do a much smaller, much more targeted list and handle it myself than this huge one that other people do for me. But that's just me, Sounds like it's you too, though.
No, well, it is. I mean, we are scaling. We're trying some different things. We did hire a VA, and we're going to have her follow up on some of the leads that have come in previously. Also have her reach out to some FSBOs and just do some back end stuff for us, right? To free us up to make the money. Because I can't do $12 and $15 an hour tasks to make $5,000 or to make, I really had to learn what I was doing and how to be the master of what I'm doing so I could teach someone else to do it so I can go do other things. So we're at that point right now where I need to free Kat's time up. I need to free my time up. We've paid a bookkeeper now. I mean, it's really picking up. And the goal for this year was 48 doors. We're 2 in.
Well,
we got a way to go, but we're going to get there.
That's your move into multifamily too, though, correct?
Hopefully.
Or just single family homes?
Hopefully. So the reason why I say the 48 is I mentioned that Kat and I are business, but we're not related. We met through the women's investors meetings, right? We're just very connected. It's almost as if we've known each other previously. It's so crazy because how married people will finish their own sentences. I'll be typing something in chat and she'll be typing the same exact thing in chat. So that's how connected we are.
Right.
It's, I don't know, the connection that we have there, everything that we do, we split 50%. That was the agreement. So if we have 48 doors, that means I've got 24 doors and she has 24 doors. And then what I did learn from you, and this is, I want to plug this just a little bit because I need to give you the credit where credit is due, right? I've been doing this and a lot of it has just been instinctual. I recognize long before you even started preaching where our market is going to end up. I told Kat late last year, we really need to be subject matter experts when it comes to subject to, because when the moratoriums lift and all of these properties start going into foreclosure, if we can talk the talk, we're going to kill it. We're just going to kill it. And so that's why I joined your coaching group. I've been in your Facebook, in the Facebook group forever, but I joined the coaching group because I feel like I need to know a lot more than I already do from an expert, not just from someone, from me figuring it out, going on YouTube and trying to put all these pieces together.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Well, we love having you in there. I mean, I think it's it's my group. Yeah, I love it. I think it's a great group. I mean, there's a lot of super people in there without attitudes. So yeah, if you got to hang around people, it might as well be fun. You know what I mean? That's the way I feel about it. So yeah, but thanks. It's good having you in there. So your lead source, said your last couple have been wholesalers, but otherwise, what would you say right now is working the best other than wholesale?
Mailers. We like the mailers because those calls come in warm.
Right.
You know, so, there's a motivation there.
So you're pulling a list out of PropStream. Now I'm going to ask you to give away a secret here. What list are you pulling? How are you doing that thing now?
Well, prior to joining your coaching group, I was just pulling absentee owners with 7 years, right? Mm-hmm. They've owned the property, they're absentee, right, whether they're in state or out of state. Out of state is always a hit, but right, I started incorporating in state as well. And then it downloads itself every couple of days for me as right, the list updates itself. So that's handy, but that is my go-to.
Right.
Absentee owner.
So you got the add-on there that does your updating for your list and all that. Isn't that thing just amazing? Are you going to be on the call tonight with Burton?
I am.
Oh yeah. Burton.
I am such a geek. You have no idea. I've been looking forward to this. I brushed my teeth and everything for this.
And his training is amazing. He's a great guy. And our last training call we did with him, he stayed on with us for 2 hours. He answered every question that was submitted ahead of time and then stayed and just kept answering questions. Amazing. You know, but so many people buy a product like PropStream or whatever, and then they don't know how to use it. So, I mean, they don't get the full benefit of it. So, yeah. So we're looking forward to that tonight.
Yeah,
so
that's a game changer.
Yeah. Oh, PropStream I remember when I first discovered it and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Because, you know, I came from the old school when we drive for dollars. And once a week, go to the tax assessor's office and look up all the properties on their computer. And then they came out with a CD once a year. And that was great because, you know, it was out of date, you know, 2 or 3 months after you got it, but you paid $200 for that. And man, I can sit home now and do that stuff. That's amazing.
I know.
And now these kids now, man, they got everything on their computers, you know.
On their phones. I mean, think, you know, like the other products like Deal Machine and some of the other stuff, you know, you can even send out a mailer from your phone now.
Oh, listen, I watched a video the other day where this guy is teaching how to virtually drive for dollars with Google Maps and stuff.
I already do that.
You're kidding
No, I do that. No, I do that. But I do it on the tax deed side. I'll go with the local site on the county, and I'll just put in a street, and I'll click into each. So then this is one of those like $8 an hour tasks, right? So I started having my daughter help me do that because she's home during the day, and you type the street in. We could do a whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
And if the street address didn't match the mailing address, then we knew we had a match on an absentee owner. And that's how we were building lists like that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yep. That's amazing. I'll tell you, just the changes in the 20 years that I've been doing this, it's just,
I can imagine.
Amazing. Yeah. You're really, well, I mean, we were just talking about just in the Carlton Sheets course, you had CDs. I had the old tapes. See, that's how long I've been around, but anyway.
The Sub2Deals Show with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle. We'll be right back. Hey Sub2ers, have you been trying to learn how to invest in real estate? It can take you years to learn the ropes on your own. How many people do you know who have been looking into real estate investing for years, but have never bought a single house? Do you have shelves full of courses but lack the courage to get out there and close on that first deal? Are you tired of so-called coaches who always seem to have just one more thing to sell you that you absolutely must have to be successful? Are you tired of trying to piece it all together with YouTube videos and free forums found on the internet? Is that really any way to build a business? William Tingle has been coaching real estate investors all over the country for over 16 years. And if you are ready, he can show you how to buy all the houses you want, anywhere you want, without ever having to ask a banker for one thin dime. Contact William today at Sub2Deals.com and schedule your free 30-minute strategy session. Talk it over, and if you think you're finally ready for success, he'll get you going. Back to the show, the Sub2Deals Show, with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle.
Okay, so tools in the business, obviously you love PropStream, you use CallRail. What other tools in your business do you use that you just couldn't do without?
Well, I'm moving away from this now. I just purchased a subscription to a CRM. But
oh, wow.
I was a spreadsheet person.
Uh-huh.
Because I can, I write formulas and I can crunch data and I can do all that to find my hits and stuff. I just subscribe.
For 19 years, this was my CRM, a yellow pad.
Really?
It was well documented how primitive I operated, and I let a lot of stuff fall through the cracks. And it was just about a year ago that I discovered, of course, we use REI Black Book, and I'm telling you, if you're slow on the technical side, the learning curve is steep. But how many people do you talk to every day that aren't ready to work with you? 99% of them.
Right.
And you ask that last question before you hang up. Hey, Mr. Seller, I totally get it. You're not open to doing something like this right now. No worries. But do you mind? Can I be your plan B? Can I check in with you from time to time, see how you're doing, how things are going? Nobody ever says no.
Right.
You pop them in there and then you forget about them until they raise their hand 6 months, a year from now and say, hey, are you still buying houses or whatever? So Yellow Pad.
Now we have technology to pop them up for you to remind you to call them back instead of flipping through your pad.
It's great. Listen, because you know what, you tear a piece of paper out, you lose it. You use the last page in it, you throw it away. You forget all about Joe and Tom and Bill and Fred that you were going to call back in 6 months. You just forget all about it. But Black Book doesn't let you do that. I know there are a bunch of other CRMs out there. What do you mind sharing what you're using?
Yeah, I just subscribed to REI Pro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know there are a bunch of them now. We chose that one. We thought it had the best features and it replaced so many things. You could drop your website provider and buying all the numbers and doing all that stuff. You save a bunch of money and then it does all the work for you. So, yeah.
Yeah. I had looked at a couple of different ways because what I'm most afraid of is in the closing process, because we actually use an attorney to close all of our deals,
all your purchases.
Everything. Is losing track. Like this morning, I was just going through the checklist of, did I get the insurance done? Do I have, like all those papers in place? Because you hate to get to the closing table. I mean, he's easygoing, and if we don't have if we don't have the funds in his bank on closing day, it doesn't mean it stops the show. We just wire them over when we leave the closing table, right? So, but having some of that flexibility with him, I need to be more accountable for us to make sure that when we're scaling appropriately. That's why I waited so long to do it, because we just didn't have the numbers to support the fact, but we'll get there.
Okay, cool. All right. So tell me, Terri, when somebody calls you from one of your handwritten letters or your cards or whatever you do to generate a lead, and they're telling you all about their house that they can't make the payments on, or they're getting a divorce or whatever. How do you evaluate that deal? I know you're super geeky and everything, so I know, man, you probably got a spreadsheet that calculates everything, but how do you decide if it's a deal that you want based on your conversation with the seller?
So I think as long as we can manage the risk, there's not too much that we won't entertain. I do have a pretty low tolerance for aggravation though. So if it's not going to cost us a lot, or we don't identify any major potential headaches, I think we can always find a way to make the deal work. So it moves, the scale moves. It all really depends on, every deal is different.
Right. Because I know some people are like really big on cash flow. Some people want a big front end payment, like a wholesale deal type thing. And I agree with you. Every deal's different. We look at the overall picture, the potential profit on the deal. I've given up front end. I've given up cash flow. I've given up back end. It just really depends on the house, the seller, the situation, all of it. So you're totally right. You try for a cookie cutter, but loans are different.
But the sellers don't get that memo. So
yeah, that's right. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Ideally we get all three. We're able to step into a place, where the people just want out. The house is in great condition. We collect a down payment from our buyer. We put that in our pocket. We make money every month. We make money on the back end. That's what we go for. It doesn't always happen that way, but that's really what we go for. So I'm thinking you probably do the same thing.
We do.
So give us an example of one of your latest deals that you did with the wholesaler, something you're working on right now. Tell us how it went, how you evaluated it. Just break it down for us.
Sure. So we're closing on a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath condo tomorrow. The seller is behind on payments. The tenants haven't paid in, I think, 8 months.
Right.
The seller is out of state. And like I said, the wholesaler brought us a deal. So I think we're going to be out of pocket at the table for $1,500. And that includes our closing costs. The seller just wanted $750 to be done. And we actually, in a lot of the deals that we do, we try to make it as least painful as possible. And if that means that we're leaving some money on the table because we're not greedy, it really builds our reputation, and it helps support because we're in a local market.
Right.
And the word gets around fast, right? We can solve your problems.
Right.
So that builds our referrals as well. And we've gotten some deals from referrals because of that.
Right. So this deal that you're telling me about, that brings to mind a couple of situations that we hear a lot about right now. Number one, you said the seller's behind in payments. They wanted $750. You came out of pocket $1,500 at the closing table, or anticipate that you will.
Well, that's what the HUD statement says. So
okay. So how did that happen? How they were behind on payments? How did you get that fixed?
Well, we're closing tomorrow, so we haven't fixed it yet.
Sorry?
But the intention is our first exit strategy is we're going to sell a finance deal.
Okay.
We'll put it on contract for deed.
Right. Okay. I guess so your exit strategy is to do what we do pretty much, contract for deed. Your buyer's going to bring in a down payment. You're going to use part of that to cure the arrears and keep the rest as profit.
Right.
I got you.
Right.
Okay.
And then our fee for the wholesaler is outside of the deal.
Right.
Right. So yeah, we don't do the assignment on a sub-2 deal. We get introduced as business partners.
Do you find that each of those deals with a wholesaler is like a negotiable fee, or do you just set a set fee with your wholesalers? Bring me a lead. If I can work it, I'll pay you $1,000, $3,000, whatever. What do you find works best?
Well, I feel like, so being a wholesaler, right? There's marketing, there's time. Right. There's aggravation on the phone. There's getting hung up on and cursed out and all kinds of things that happen. I feel like they earn the fee, and I'll give them $5,000. Oh yeah, I will. If I feel like the deal is worth it. I had a guy call me yesterday. He has the house was built in 2007, 1,200 square foot, 4-bedroom, 2.5 baths. It needs carpet and maybe some paint in a couple of the rooms. She owes 131 on the first loan, 13K on the second loan, and the ARV is 150. So not a lot of room there. Right. He's not getting $5,000. Right. But he's getting something. He'll get 2,500. Yeah. But I can't give him 5. Not on this one. I can make it up on another one.
For a deal that he would have filed 13 without you. Right. So Right. Okay. So your example deal, another point. Now I want to ask you about this. It's got a tenant in place taking advantage of the COVID situation. Sounds like. How do you deal with that to make room for your buyer that you want to sell to?
So I mentioned Kat, and I'm laughing because she is just too sweet. Yeah. And I'm more like, you just showed your hand. You think I'm going to let you stay here? So I can't have the conversation with the tenant. Right. But the exit strategy on that, in order to get them out, we're not going to try and evict them at first. I mean, if they buck this, then we will, but we're going to give them cash for keys and ask them to leave. Okay. Yeah. That's, I'm telling you, that's, everybody thinks about litigation and everything. It's always cheaper. It is almost always cheaper to just suck it up and work it out.
And I know how tough that is. When I got started, man, I was this huge ego. You can't not pay me, blah, blah, blah. I'll kick you out. And then if you do get them out, you get a house that's got holes busted in the walls. And, you know, they locked their dog in the house for 2 weeks before they moved. You know, I mean, it's a bad situation. It's so much easier to just be nice, write a little check, let them go on their way. Yeah,
right. We learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah. Tell me, when your eviction attorney invites you to lunch to tell you that you need to lighten up, you know you're excessive. That's what happened to me. Yeah. You know, the guy.
We ended up with a copay and attorney fees because my husband beat the tenant up, slipped on some rocks, tore the other leg, the other leg, and ended up in surgery and out of work for like 6 months. So we could have just gave the guy $500 to give us the keys, but $2,500 later, and we're still paying for it. So the mess he left inside, just the whole experience. But I learned just after all of that happened, I told you during one of our coaching calls, one of the best lessons that I've ever learned, and I'm sorry I didn't learn it sooner, was if you have a problem and money will solve your problem, if you have money, you don't have a problem.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the truth. It solves everything.
Money will fix just about anything out there that you got going on, especially in the real estate world, for sure. So the lesson here is, if you don't pay Terry's husband shows up and beats you up.
My real estate attorney, because I was on the REIA board for a while, and he's also on the board. Right. So he said, don't go telling anybody that he was a boxer.
Really? Because then it doesn't become, it becomes like assault with a deadly weapon, I think.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knocked the guy out cold.
Wow. Okay. All right, then. Well, that's the lesson learned right there. Well, Terry, tell us about your most unusual deal. Do you have one of those? And I've asked this question now for 2 years to investors, and I've heard all about murder for hire plots and I mean, everything, you know, faked deaths, you know, as far as, you know, I mean, I've heard some really strange stuff. So what you got for me today?
Well, I don't have anything quite that unusual. Although I could tell some of those tenant stories, and that probably get you there. Yeah. And I did drive a cab in New York for 19 years. I've got some stories on that.
Oh, wow.
That's another podcast. Yeah.
Hey, there used to be an HBO special about that, Undercover Taxi or something. Yeah.
Yeah. But we had it's one of the first properties that we did, that Kat and I did together. It's called the Boaz. And we call it the Boaz because this thing has life, a lot of life. So it's 2 mobile homes on 4 acres.
Wow. The
dad had died. Mom was alone in the top house, and the son was in the other trailer. He was traveling 60 miles one way every day in his vehicle to get to work. And he knew he couldn't call an agent, and I sent him the letter. Mm-hmm. One of my nice little signature letters.
Right.
Because it didn't look like he lived there, because there's 2 separate numbers on the address. So it came up as an absentee owner.
Right.
We bought the property for $55,000. We borrowed the down payment with private money. Mm-hmm. The seller's son needed that to buy his new house closer to his job. We did a sub-2 on the existing mortgage on the newer mobile home. And then we did a seller carryback for the balance on the agreed upon sales price and negotiated that to be paid after the private money and the sub-2 repayment was complete.
Right.
Yeah. So we had tenants in there. So the first house, that top house, was a single wide, but looking from it, you would think it was a double wide because they did all of their own work. And we affectionately called it a Franken house.
Oh, wow.
And then we had some wonderful tenants in there who called code enforcement on us. And they basically condemned the place because they rigged every piece of electric and plumbing that you could think of. It was kind of like he'd come home from work and she would say, honey, I want a walk-in closet today. And he would just like build a walk-in closet for her. Like they're just random things all over the house. They had a bathroom the size of a twin bedroom. Like it was amazing what he did there. So we left that open. We had our maintenance guy going in there and starting to clean it out because we were just going to pull it off the property and put something else there.
Right.
And then we had someone in the bottom house that was renting. At one point when we had both of them going, we were cash flowing $1,500 a month because the mortgage was $250 a month.
Oh, super.
So we were making some money. The tenant that's in the down house has found another place and she's going to be moving out. So we're talking with Kat and we've decided that we're going to put it on the market and we're going to do a contract for deed on it. Now, remember I told you we paid $55,000.
Right.
We've already paid off the private money.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been paying on the sub-2 now for a little over a year. We're going to seller finance the deal for $150,000.
Nice.
As is. So crap trailer at the top is staying.
Yeah.
The one down below is livable. It does need some carpet and cosmetic stuff. It's in great shape, but it needs cosmetic stuff. And the goal behind that is we'll seller finance it probably about 8% because the mortgage is next to nothing,
right?
On the sub-2 deal.
Sure.
So,
wow,
that's what I got.
So what's your projected overall profit on this thing?
We'll make almost with the interest, and if we can stretch it out over time, we'll make close to $300,000 on this property.
Over $250,000. And you mailed them a letter
with nothing out of pocket. We literally, it was a $300 check we wrote at the closing table.
Wow. That's amazing. That's a great story. I'm telling you, creative finance, man, it's insane. It's, and you're talking about a $55,000 deal with a couple of mobile homes. And you say if you stretch this out for a little bit, so if let's say your seller financed buyer comes in and stays 5-10 years, you'll make over $250,000 on this thing. Wow. So you're going to make a $30,000 a year profit off of just a crappy, basically little, property.
Off a letter that I signed.
Yeah.
A letter that I signed, and Kat wrote a $300 check. She went to the closing with one of our business checks, wrote $300 because everything else was covered through other people's money. You know
what's so funny about this is now we're talking about technology and how things have changed. You get on these webinars or even like our coaching calls and stuff. New students come in and they're always asking about KPIs and all of this stuff. And it's like your KPI on this deal was like $1, right? I mean, it's just amazing, but people will tell you, I did a podcast with Nick Monge this week and he's a young guy and lives here in my area. He's in our group. And, 6 months ago, I remember my first call with him, it was a joint venture partner call and discovery call. And he didn't know what Sub2 was really. And now he's buying houses all over the place, one of the hottest markets in the country, because he does what everybody says, oh, that doesn't work now. He calls expired listings and he, does this and that. And everybody's like, oh, that doesn't work. Bad at signs, they don't work. This doesn't. But, the guy's buying houses in the hottest market in the country. Right. So all about the KPI, though, man. It's all about the KPI.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a tremendous story. I like that as much as I did the murder for hire. That's great.
Yeah. Well, you got to tell me which podcast that was on, because I want to go catch that one.
I know, man. It's amazing. We'll have to look that up. I can't remember. I think I know which one it was, but we'll get that for you.
Yeah, definitely.
So Terri, a lot of incredible information here, but tell me, you've been doing this for 16 years. What advice would you give a new investor that take me 21 years ago? I ordered a Carlton Sheets course. I got on Google and said, real estate investing, boom. And I'm just looking because I didn't know anything about it. So I'm a new investor. I'm just getting started. What advice do you give me?
I have a couple of points, right? There's a few things. And I share this with my ladies all the time when I speak to the ladies at the Wire. These are some of the things, because everybody doesn't have the stomach for this, right?
Right.
So first you need to know your strengths and your weaknesses, because some self-awareness and a personal inventory is good for all aspects of your life, but real estate investing is not for the weak. If it were easy, everyone would do it, right?
Yeah.
Second is the combination of the pillars of having a strong work ethic, right? That's commitment, consistency, discipline, and effort. You have to be willing to work a lot of unpaid hours. But with each closing, you build more confidence, which equals more rewards.
Right.
Third is mindset is everything. Henry Ford said it best. He said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Yeah. So don't sabotage your own success by letting fear and self-doubt get in the way.
Right.
And then lastly, your network is your net worth. Check your circle. You are the average of the 5 people you associate with. So if you want to be a millionaire, then you need to show up in rooms where millionaires are gathering. Yep. You're going to lose some friends and maybe even some family. And that's okay. Just like the flight attendant says, secure your own mask first before assisting others.
That's exactly right.
You may want to bring people with you on your success journey, but all people are not ready. And that's okay. That is okay.
That's true.
So,
I read something not too long ago that said everybody can't go with you. No. Unfortunately, but if you want to grow, you're going to leave some people behind. So, yeah, that's tough. Good advice, Terri. Man, it's like you've been doing this a lot longer than you say. So, hey, listen, man, it was great.
A lot of transferable skills, William, a lot.
And you really kind of summed it up earlier when you said, you got started in this with a little bit of education, but a lot of it's just intuitive. We're in a people business. And I've said this a bunch before. It's not even about the house. It's about the guy in the house. You know what I mean? Right. That's the problem that you have to solve and think about. A house is a house is a house. It's got bedrooms, bathrooms, a kitchen, most of them. Some in your areas may not have, but that, and typically you're going to have beds and baths, a kitchen, a living room, they're going to be brick or frame. But it's the person in the house, and that's the contact you've got to make and the solutions that you have to come up with. And if you can relate to that person, you're probably going to buy that house. Right. So absolutely. Hey, listen, it's great having you on here. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Same here. Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing you tonight when Burton makes Prop Stream bark like a dog. So.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that.
Well, thanks for coming on and sharing some of what's working for you. I appreciate it. Sub-Tours, that is it for this episode of the Sub2Deals Show podcast. You can find the show notes for this episode along with a transcript at sub2podcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you would listen to the show on Apple, give us a 5-star rating on Apple. It only takes a minute, and it helps others discover the show. And if you haven't yet, we would love it if you would join our Sub2 group at sub2forum.com. It's an absolutely free Facebook group. Got about 6,000 in there as of today, and we share a lot of information there and have a great time. So until next time, keep learning, keep talking to sellers, and you will buy some houses.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Sub2Deals Show with William Tingle. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit sub2deals.com, on Facebook at Sub2Deals. We'll catch you next time.